Have you ever noticed how the older you get, the less willing you are to try new things, and the more paranoid you are? Maybe your parents just didn't understand or approve of your taste in music growing up, or they didn't understand why you wanted your ears pierced, or why you watched Vine compilations. Well, this all stems from the good enough factor. As creatures, our survival comes from our paranoia. Just look at the dodo bird. It didn't fear humans, and it was hunted to extinction. Well, the good enough factor is a result of our inherent paranoia. Your parents presumably turned out fine, so why would they risk giving you a different upbringing than they had? This is why we have tradition. Parents don't want to risk raising their children differently because whatever they change might just be the thing that turned the kid into a drug addict. There's nothing wrong with that, in fact it's probably a good thing for the kids, but this is the sort of paranoia that can lead to a lot of regrets. Every bad thing we ever bear witness to sticks with us forever, however big or small it is. Maybe you hear about a school bus getting hit by a train. As incredibly uncommon as that is, and as many things have to go wrong for that to happen, it's the reason school buses have to stop when they hit a railroad crossing. Maybe one lunatic made headlines by putting razor blades in apples and handing them out on Halloween. Well, now it's practically unheard of for kids under 15 to go trick-or-treating on their own. Maybe your wife was diagnosed with Alzheimer's in her late 30s. Well, you're going to spend the rest of your life wondering how that happened to someone so young, and if it's happening to you. Being at its core a mystery story, Firewatch is the perfect setting for that sort of paranoia. From the very first in-game day, this paranoia becomes a part of the plot. First, when Henry meets Delilah over the radio and is immediately wondering what kind of person she really is.
Take a stab at what's wrong with me.
Fine, then can I... sleep? Forever?
Sure, buddy. Okay, now go ahead.
Okay, you're probably just rebelling against a mom who wishes you had given her grandkids, by the sound of your voice, at least 15 years ago. You come out here and it really grinds your gears and you love it. Can I sleep now?
And a minute later, you encounter this mysterious figure looking over you in the woods.
There's some guy out here giving me the creeps.
Henry is immediately paranoid, as evidenced by the fact that basically every player will choose to call it in to Delilah. She then tells a little joke, having caught on to Henry's paranoia and choosing to make fun of him for it.
Henry, there's something someone should have told you about this area.
What is it?
It's outside.
Come on.
The whole thing. And people come and go as they please. It's madness.
Yeah, okay. I get it.
Look, bumping into someone in the middle of nowhere is part of the fun.
Well, these paranoias keep mounting until the plot really gets started, when one of the communication cables is cut by two college girls who were partying at the lake the day before. From the cut comm line, we follow a trail of beer cans and a smokestack back to their camp, and find that it's been completely torn apart. Maybe it was a bear, maybe it was that mysterious man we found, it might have even been Delilah, trying to frame us for some reason. Well, this is where things start to get interesting. We have a late night with Delilah, where we're talking on the radio with her about the things that men and women talk about late at night.
I wish I was over there.
I wish you were too.
We could sit outside. We could talk about these radios. We could,
Depending on how you play this, our trust in her is growing. It's no coincidence that this night is also when we see our first forest fire crop up. We can either be paranoid of Delilah, or we can be paranoid that we're being too hasty and giving up on Julia too quickly and that we shouldn't be out here in the woods, but taking care of her back in Boulder. Either way, our paranoia is rising. Henry's too paranoid to even enjoy the company of a charming woman on the other side of the forest without feeling like he's doing wrong.
She's sick, and I shouldn't be here, but I am.
I'm sorry, Henry. What is it?
We'll get into it.
Okay. Well, in the meantime, you are here, and it's beautiful, and escaping isn't always something bad.
Yeah, sure.
Shortly after, we're headed to the lake to go fishing when we find a clipboard that has transcriptions of our conversations with Delilah. And as we investigate further, we get knocked out, and the clipboard is taken back from us. This is where Henry's condition goes from being paranoid that he's a bad person to being paranoid that he's schizophrenic. Over the next hour of the game, this cascades into Henry asking Delilah if she or any of this is real, or if he's set to get Alzheimer's too. Maybe he and Julia live near some sort of power plant that gave them a predisposition towards early onset dementia.
Am I just making all of this up? I mean, the eavesdropping, the spying, is this... Fuck, is any of this real?
What? Are you serious?
Maybe I'm just losing my mind.
What?
Like Julia. And maybe it's happening to me, and I'm imagining that I have a boss out here and that we're being spied on.
Henry!
Maybe there was something in the water, or our condo was underneath some power lines, and you, Delilah, you're not real.
Henry, think about her. If what happened to her were happening to you, you wouldn't even be able to realize it.
Maybe Delilah is part of some sort of social experiment trying to pick apart Henry's brain. Is the government involved? Are the firefighters in on it? Is somebody trying to frame Henry for the disappearance of those two girls? If they have recordings of our conversations with Delilah, then they could totally pull off that framing. Sure, this is an extreme example. After a revelation like Henry has when he finds that clipboard, I'm sure most of us would be having similar thoughts. However, nothing in art is a coincidence. This paranoia is a very deliberate choice by the writers, Sean Vonneman and Patrick Ewing. The paranoia runs very, very deep in this game. I mean, the game is all about being a Firewatch worker, a job which is literally just staring into the tree line waiting for something to go wrong. These crazy lines of questioning that the penultimate sections of this game provoke is where that paranoia comes to a head. We stumble upon a secret facility where we find some sort of high-tech signal locator and documents detailing the personality traits of Henry and Delilah, and we even see on Delilah's psych report that she's some sort of compulsive cheater, and that she flirts with all of the Firewatch workers in spite of having a husband back in civilization.
What does it say about me? You said there was one about me.
And it looks like they've been following me around. What I do when I'm out hiking? Jesus.
Henry, do you hear me?
It says that you and your boyfriend are still together.
What? We're not. They're messing with us.
Yeah, okay.
They are. How do they even know who he is? How the hell does this... I'm so sick of letting these people do this to us. We should just burn the place down.
Delilah insists that whoever wrote that report is just trying to make Henry more paranoid and drive them apart, but the thoughts that are going through Henry and the player's head at this point are bordering on schizophrenic. It wouldn't be much of a stretch at all if Henry were to start believing that Delilah, the mysterious man, the girls, the firefighters, and the people that hired him are all a part of some elaborate plot to conduct some sort of research on him. I'll only give a brief recap as to what is actually happening, as it isn't all that important to Henry's story. Henry isn't the subject of some grand conspiracy. Nobody's trying to research him. Delilah isn't lying about who she is. It was all just some poor, misguided, and crazy man trying to scare Henry and Delilah off of his trail, as he was hoping nobody would find him. His son was killed while trying to scale a shale slide in a cave, and so he retreated to a hideout in the woods, hoping to never be found again. As all of these revelations are being had, the various fires that have cropped up over the summer have merged together, and all that's left is to try to keep them under control, and to evacuate the various Firewatch workers. Delilah gets on the helicopter first and flies away while we're still on our way to the helipad. Fortunately, once we get to Delilah's tower, which is right next to the helipad, we manage to contact her one last time using our radio. Now it's time to figure out what we can really take away from this game. The mounting paranoia of any adult's life is the problem. Well, now it's time to find out the solution. In my playthrough, I wanted to see Henry move on. Julia was a lost cause. She wouldn't even recognize Henry if she came back, and she was never going to get better. There was nothing left for Henry to do but try to make the rest of his life count. I asked Delilah to come back to Boulder with me, and she told me that I should go visit Julia, and then try to figure things out. Both of us were trying to figure out what would be best for Henry, and both of us were right. Henry's never going to truly get over what happened to Julia. He's going to spend the rest of his life wondering what happened to her, what he could have done to prevent it, whether or not it was inevitable. Delilah was right. Visiting Julia one last time probably wouldn't have done any harm to Henry, because it would have only confirmed what he already knew, that he was right, and that he did need to move on. So, what did Henry learn over the course of this game? In the beginning of the game, we hear Henry talk about how he shouldn't even be out here, and therein lies his ultimate paranoia. He's worried that moving on from Julia is wrong and unethical. After all, it's not like she's dead.
She's sick, and I shouldn't be here, but I am.
Well, in the end, Henry learns that this is exactly where he should be. He doesn't need to worry if he's in the wrong for leaving Julia with her parents. He's in his late 30s. To devote so much of his life to Julia would only add to the damage that her disease caused. He doesn't need to feel bad for moving on. He needs to keep moving forward. Over the course of Firewatch, Henry finally overcomes the paranoia that came from Julia's disease. He'll never truly forget what happened to Julia, but he learned to forgive himself. This forest was nothing but a place where time didn't pass, where Henry could wait for that revelation to come, and now the wait is over, and he can start living his life once again.